Hey folks, welcome back to the Portable Gamer, welcome back to Farming Simulator 2017, and welcome back to Hermanns Eck. So, let's get right into it. I skipped ahead. It is day 7 of spring, so it's late spring, and our grass is up. Off camera, I went ahead and planted corn in field 14, so that's ready to go. And I fertilized, I sprayed pellet fert from our broadcast spreader. I sprayed or spread fert on our potato fields, our sunflower fields, and I think that's about it. Something. Well, let me go to the map and I can show you there a little bit more easily. But if we look here, not here, not here, here. So there's a lot of what I call public grass or council grass on this map. I knew there was a grass field here that's on our farm. I knew there was a grass field here. There's a little one down here, but then I also found over here to the west of fields 5 and 6, there's council grass here, and then there's 3 big ones right here by the brewery. So I went ahead and I didn't do it early season because I wasn't paying attention. So those don't have 3 layers of fert because you need to get the first one on before the first growth stage of grass, and then the second layer after the first stage, and then when it goes to second stage, where it is now, you can apply the third one like we're about to. But I didn't do that, so those only have 1. Now these, where we are now, these do have, or will have, 3 layers. I just need to finish them off. So let's get started here, and while that is going on, I will tell you some good news. Or, I mean, it's good news to me. Maybe it's good news to you. I don't know. So you know we were having a problem in Shadow Play. And the problem that I was having was, all of a sudden, I had a second FPS counter about 3/4 of the way across the top of the screen, and it was tiny. It was just a wee little FPS counter, but it's the same color and it's the same font and everything as the NVIDIA FPS counter that comes with the GeForce experience. So I knew it was related to that somehow. I knew it was doubling up that FPS counter. And when we tried to record in Shadow Play, it ran about 15 seconds and then it cut out. And I was at a loss. So I spent some time on threads and forums. I never found a single instance of anybody having that same problem. And I mean, I knew it was a problem. I knew it was something I had to figure out. So I went ahead and just took it upon myself, as they say. And I just started prowling around. And I also noticed our frame rate was pretty low compared to what it used to be. And, you know, these games are so dynamic. There's always so many things going on that it's hard sometimes to know, like, how do I want to say this? It's hard to know what's happening sometimes. You know, because there's so many things going on. Like, is our frame rate dropping off because it's spring and summer, late spring and summer on all of our farms, and that means there are more textures to load? Or is something else going on? So it's always, I don't want to say it's always a bug hunt in PC world, but it's sort of always a bug hunt in PC world. It really is. So now, does this have a layer? Or are we adding? It's hard to tell sometimes with the textures. I think we're adding, maybe? Maybe? I think we are. Hard to say. But what I finally came across was in my settings, and this was sort of unrelated to that second FPS counter. This was just me noticing, like, wow, my FPS is really dropped off. It's like 30 to 50% lower than what it used to be. This is no good. Maybe I need to back off graphics settings for these farms that are in summertime, you know, where we have these extra textures. Maybe I need to just cool my boots a little bit on the graphics settings. And one of the things, I had my multi-sample anti-aliasing. I'm telling you that for a specific reason. I had my multi-sample anti-aliasing at 16x. And I was like, that's a bit high. That's a bit high. Let's turn that down a little bit. I turned it down to 8x. And when I reloaded the game, now my tiny FPS counter was twice the size, and it had moved to the middle. So clearly that's related somehow to anti-aliasing, specifically the MFAA anti-aliasing. Let me zoom in a little bit here. We're going to drop this spreader in our shed here. So, okay, so we're on a bug hunt now, and we seem to have found our bug. So I went back into settings, turned MFAA in-game off completely, and when I fired it up again, second FPS counter was gone. And, moment, clip through the wall there. And, oh, let me clip through the hand truck. Okay, getting backed up here. Making it, perfect. Basically, that fixed the problem. And we picked up probably 10 to 15 FPS. Now, I think that problem came from the latest drivers that we downloaded, or maybe the ones before that. But either way, we solved the problem. So super, super pleased about that. And we did pick up some FPS. And something else that I can tell you, even though our FPS gain was not that dramatic, the game is playing a lot smoother now. And I'm feeling like, you know how sometimes you can have good FPS? That was a save game, by the way. No problem. You know how sometimes you can have good FPS in a game, but it still looks kind of stuttery? I feel like that's where we were. So the game is smoother now. It's got kind of a creamy, buttery feel. And I did go in and turn on anti-aliasing from the card in the NVIDIA settings. So you may see a little bit of picket fence. We're working on that. But for the moment, I think we've got things a bit sorted. We've got row crop tires on here. Oh, you seen some screen tearing too? Yeah. If you look at those posts when we move, are you seeing those rips? Okay. Always a bug hunt in PC world. But we sort it out one problem at a time. 34 pounds, yes. And we want to put on, what did we have? We had twin wheels small, I think is what we had. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, that's what we were running. Yep. So before we get back in there, let's take a look in our garage. And let's see horsepower requirements. This is 90. This guy requires 130. So the 500 can run the mower. And then we just got a tedder and a rake. So anybody can run that. And anybody can run that. Okay, cool. So let's hop in here and get this thing. No, we don't even need to do that. We can leave it right in here because our tedder and our rake are there. So let's go get in our 500. Let's get on a mower. My voice is going, as always. Let's get on a mower and let's get some grass cut. So you see what I'm saying as far as the bug hunt. And you know, it's weird because as I was looking at threads, as I was looking at forums, you know, for somebody that's had this problem, I didn't find anything. And what's weird about that is, you know, at a certain point, like, my system is not that exotic, you know, it's not that unusual. But in PC world, like, from the minute that you get a system, just the normal stuff that you do as far as like how you configure things and the apps that you load and the sims that you load and all that sort of thing, it very quickly makes that system, for lack of a better word, kind of custom. Even if, like mine, like it's not very exotic, you end up with a system that is unique to you. I also think I got some buttons configured, so let me try a couple things. That is lower. And it's going to make us unfold. Now I think I don't want to crush a bunch of grass here. I think this one, can we no. Okay, so it's going to make us run offset, but that's okay. That's okay. Right, here we go. And Let's do a little cruise control. Let's say, oh, don't hit the fence, don't hit the fence. Let's say, oh, trying to do too many things at once here. Let's say 6 mph. We'll come back in and get that area that we just missed. Oh, we really missed it because we didn't even drop the deck. Oh dear. Okay. There we go. Now we're mowing. So what I'm saying is whether you know it or not, you've got kind of a custom system just because you've set it up the way you want it set up. And there's really no way to get around that. So when you have a problem to solve, there are times when, like, you're the only person that can solve it because you're the only person that really understands your system. Like, I don't know if you're into hot rods or cars or that sort of thing, but it's like, you know, you go on a forum and you're like, oh yeah, I got a 260Z and it's got a stroker motor in it, so it's you know, it's been bored and it's been you know, custom rods, and it's running, you know, we've got custom titanium valve gear, and we've got like all this stuff. I had a guy in Osaka build me a one-of-a-kind handmade blower, and you know what I mean? And, oh, through the fence. No collision, fortunately. And you got custom fuel rail, and you're running custom fuel injection mapping. Reset my clutch. You're running custom fuel injection mapping, and you know, you flashed it to the EEPROM, and you got all this custom stuff in your 260, and there's a problem with it. You know, the math says that we should be dynoing at this number, and we're seeing a drop off at 3,500 RPM. And you go online and ask, like, you know, what do you think the problem is? And people are going to come back at you like, man, I don't know. that is so boutique. Like, the rig that you're running is so specifically you built it. You're sort of the only person that knows how to fix it. And I think in our own sort of small way, the same thing happens when we have problems in PC world. Like, you built it, you know, you made it the way that it is. You got to fix it. And when you go onto forums, when you go onto threads and you don't see a solution, and sometimes you'll see a very fast solution to your problem. I'm going to get turned around here so we stop crushing grass, by the way. Sometimes very quickly you'll see a solution to your problem, and other times you won't. And it's like, you're the only one who knows how to fix it. And that is both frustrating and extremely satisfying, because I did track down this problem, and it's like, that made my day, you know? It's Wednesday, and that really made my day. It's a small thing, but, you know, like Vince in Vegas says, it's the little things. So let's get turned around here. I know, not super realistic. We should have lifted that deck, but what can you do? So yeah, that is one thing that is going on, and like I said, we also picked up some FPS, so I'm happy about that. And the game it's just playing different. I mean, I can see a little bit of shimmer in the textures. I can see, I mean, we're obviously anti-aliasing differently than we were before, but that's cool, you know, that's totally cool. It's always a work in progress. I'm thinking about what we're going to do in a few weeks when FS17 comes out, and I'm trying to decide. You know, I saw a really good comment that somebody left for me. They said, hey man, when 19 comes out, there's not going to be any mods for it. Now, it could be an entirely different game that is so good and so, like, comprehensive and in-depth that we don't even need mods, but I think that's pretty unlikely. And I think also, now Seasons is supposed to be incorporated in it, I think, maybe, or something like Seasons, some variation of Seasons, I don't know. We'll see when it gets here. So it could be that it is robust enough that from day one we can just jump in, and, you know, it might have fantastic maps that don't need any improvement, that we have no complaints about, but knowing how we are as gamers and knowing how we are about farm sim, that's pretty unlikely. Most likely it's going to be a little bit dry for probably the first 6 or 8 weeks till the modders get in there. And that's cool. Having said that, I think we're going to keep a couple maps, and I think the 2 maps that we're going to keep are this one, Hermanns Eck, which I'm really enjoying, and also Thornbrook, which is a new Lancy Boy map that I just got into, and I think I'm playing Thornbrook and Maplewood, both by Lancy Boy, and I think of the 2, they're both great, but I think of the 2, Thornbrook has more potential. I'm enjoying it more, and I've also got Klaus equipment on there, which is equipment that I have not used, I think, on any YouTube map, and I really haven't used it very much at all lately, even in non-YouTube farming. So I think that's going to be how we handle this. And like I said, if FS17 is fantastic from day one, then we'll tie off Hermanns Eck and Thornbrook as well and just play FS19 exclusively, but I don't see that being the case. Could be. I'm happy to be wrong, but I just don't see that being the case. So time will tell. I can also tell you that I skipped ahead a few days here on this farm, and I love seasons. I don't play without seasons ever now. But I can tell you that if you have animals, moving ahead can be a little bit tedious, because basically or at least how I do it, is I accelerate time to 120x, and I just let it run until my animals need attention, which is typically, like on this map, it's just food and water. And on some maps, it is also, if you have to manually muck out the stables, on those maps you need to muck out as well, so you don't end up with like 30,000 liters of manure inside your barn. That's like kind of makes me a little, you know what I'm saying? When I visualize that, it kind of makes me throw up in my mouth a little. 30,000 liters of poo inside a building. Ugh. So you speed up time and then you slow down time, and then you speed it up again and you slow it down. It gets a little bit tedious, and also you're not doing anything other than that. So you feed all your animals, you speed up time for 15 minutes in real life, go have a sandwich or something, and when you come back, you just feed your animals again. So if I was like participating in the development of seasons, or in the development of something equivalent for FS19, what I would tell the developers is take a hint from Cattle and Crops, and have an option to have your workers, your hired workers, take care of your animals for a fee. And it doesn't necessarily have to be animated, right? It could just be a value that changes, so you don't necessarily see anything in real life. You just see a value change, and you know that your animals have been fed. I mean, there could be an animation, and that's the sort of thing that, again, if it was me, if I was doing it, what I would say is, if your time is at 1x or 5x acceleration, then yes, let's see those other workers moving around. And obviously there's restrictions. They can only, like, let's say they can only make mixed food for your cows if you have a tractor that's not being used, and a mixer, and you have the silage and the hay and the straw to make mixed food, you know what I mean? Or they can only water your cows or your pigs or whatever if you have a water source, and if you have a Bowser and a tractor. You know what I'm saying? You have to assign them a tractor, and that's straight out of Cattle and Crops. The other thing you could do is skip all that and just say, for a fee, your animals get maintained this many times a week, or this many times a day, or whatever. And I think that would work, because sometimes it is fun to maintain animals. Sometimes it's not. But that's true, I think, of all aspects of farm sim. There's times where I want to drive the combine harvester. There's times when I want to drive the grain cart. So you automate the other task, and you let a hired worker do it. I think that's a great compromise. So I think to have the option of, yes, I would like a hired worker to take care of my animals, or if you're broke, unfortunately I have to do this manually because I don't have the money to pay a worker, or however it works out, but you would have the option. So if I was in the developer's ear, that's what I would tell them. And who knows? Who knows? I think for a minute, Cattle and Crops was, I mean, I thought it was the chosen one. I thought it was going to be the farm sim killer, and I bought in early. I invested at the gold level, early days, and yeah, I did the Kickstarter thing and the whole deal, and I really believed in that sim. And you may have heard this, I've said it in another video, I finally gave up. And the final straw for me is I was in a thread talking about, you know, like, they're really not making any progress on this game. The progress is so incredibly slow. And I had now, to be fair, it wasn't anybody from, is it Master Brains or Master Bytes? It wasn't somebody from there. It was a moderator in one of their forums, but he was like, you got to be patient. And I was like, man, it's been 3 years. Come on, there's a limit to patience. And at a certain point, I mean, these gangsters had, and when I say gangsters, by the way, I don't mean that they're like actually running a scam or anything. I don't mean that kind of gangster. It's just a phrase that I use. But these gangsters had an anniversary for their early access. And if you're having a 1-year anniversary for your game being in early access, you are doing it wrong. And I understand making a video game is very difficult, but at the same time, like, I don't care. If you have accepted my money, and in fact, if you've asked for my money, it's not like they were, you know, just doing their thing and there was a button you could click if you felt like making a donation. They had a Kickstarter page, and they were heavily promoting the idea that you could get this game early and have access to DLC like for 4 years, and you could, you know, they wanted money, they needed money, and that's cool. It takes money to live, I get that. But don't pretend like, oh, people just gave us money, you know, we'll get it done when it gets done. You solicited money, which is very close to selling something. You know, you can call it a donation, you can call it Kickstarter, but from my perspective, you sold something. And then afterwards, it's like, oh, it turns out that making this thing we already sold is going to be really, really hard. And I don't care. That's not my problem. It wasn't my problem when you were taking my money. Why is it my problem now? So I'm a little hot with that crew, and I did think that that game could really be some stiff competition for farm sim, particularly for the kinds of farmers that really, sim farmers, I mean, for the kinds of, where do we want to put this thing? Let's put it down here. Particularly for the kind of sim farmers that really, you know, heavily mod the game and play it very seriously and want things like terrain deformation, and, you know, they want things like being able to get stuck in the mud. I thought for a while that it could be that game, but at this point, honestly, I don't think it's ever going to be done. And if it is done, it's going to be so far out of date on day one. Not quite going to make it. We're going to clip the barn. So let's very carefully back up and swing it a little wider. A little wider. You know what I mean? It's running on C4, which is already obsolete. C4 has been replaced by Tombstone. You know, how can you be releasing a game and the core engine of that game is a technology that's already out of date and the game's not even done yet? So what did I hit? Oh, I hit the downspout. This is why we can't have nice things. Let me hit it again with my mirror. So yeah, I'm a little, and then we're not even going to be able to get through here because of our trailer. So it goes. Yeah, I'm a little bit hot with them, and like I said, I can't imagine the complexity of making a video game. It's got to be difficult, but you know, I've run projects in my life, not video game development projects, but I've run projects. I've been a project manager, and you know, you to start from the very beginning and flowchart a project and figure out things like a budget and deliverables, and you know, to just see the complexity of of something like a project. And I can tell you that, you know, if you're willing to say, I'll do this, at least the people that I've worked for, the clients that I've worked for, you can't come back at them later and say like, oh, this is really hard. Well, it's okay. And then we'll take our money back now, please. Thank you. So it sort of doesn't matter how hard it is. If you said you could do it, you need to be able to do it, or you need to, I don't know, not do it, maybe. But like if I go to the dentist and he's like, yeah, you got a cavity, and I'm like, what are we going to do about that? And he says, I don't know, man. Cavities are really tricky. That's not the answer that I'm looking for, man. You're a dentist. Fix it. So if you aspire to call yourself a game developer, you're sort of on the hook to develop games. You know, you really don't have a lot of latitude at that point, particularly after you've accepted the money. So that's my little rant. And you know, it's all in good fun. There's no genuine animosity there. It's not like I hate them or anything. I think, if anything, the frustration that I'm feeling is probably nothing compared to the frustration and embarrassment. Now, I don't know these people, so I'm not like assigning emotion to them by any means, but if I'm frustrated, you know they're frustrated. There's no way these cats are just kicking back like, look what we did. You know, they've promised to make a game and they haven't followed through on that. So I think that's gotta, I would think that would weigh on them. I could be wrong. Like I said, I don't know them, but I would think that would weigh on them pretty good. So we'll see. But I'm not, in terms of cattle and crops, ever competing with farm sim. My bet, I'll tell you my bet. Take it down to William Hill, lock it in. That game is never going to be done, and if it is ever done, it's going to be dead on arrival because it's going to be so far out of date on day one. So that's where I'm at. However, I do know that a lot of the people that are involved with that program are Farm Sim 17, and I guess Farm Sim 15 for that matter. They're Farm Sim modders. And I'm hoping that some of the ideas that they brought to cattle and crops, like having workers maintain your animals, I'm hoping they can incorporate those things, not them, but Giants and Focus. I'm hoping they can incorporate those things into Farm Sim because they're really good ideas, like Seasons. I know it's a different crew, but Realismus modding, you know, to come up with Seasons, just, it still blows my mind that they pulled that off. It's an unbelievable mod, and all indications are that either Seasons or something similar will be included in FS19, and it really needed it. It's the kind of mod that, when I think back to first jumping into FS15, the absence of Seasons, and I don't mean Seasons the mod, I mean actual Seasons in the game. The absence of Seasons in the game meant that it was all sandbox. It was like there was no other option but to be in sandbox mode, unless you physically like drew out a calendar and just decided what day it was. Yeah, I see that artifact up there as well, that sort of bar of light that's going across. Another problem to solve, another bug hunt. But unless you manually drew up a calendar and created your own like schedule of work, the whole game was by default a sandbox, because you could be planting a crop in one field. Next to it you have a field that's germinating. Next to that you have a field that's ripe. And next to that you have a field that was just harvested, all in the same day. And it's not that it's not realistic. I'm trying to think what I want to do next here. I want to go here. Oh, I forgot to put my weight back on. Oh, man. That's why this thing is dragging. Okay. Live and learn, yo. Don't be forgetful. So the fact that Giants may Giants and Focus may incorporate some aspects of seasons into FS19. I think it's inevitable. I think it has to happen because without seasons, it's just kind of a free-for-all. And, you know, I got a comment the other day. Somebody said, this game without mods is terrible. And I agree. For me, it is. And I say all the time, you know, I know a big part of the market for this game is kids. And that's totally cool. That's totally cool. I'm not like a pacifist or anything, but I'd rather have kids playing a game where they farm than play a game where they shoot people. So, come on, we're going for it. Yeah. Oh man, I do love Gearbox. I love it. That really adds to the game as well. It slows it down and it makes these great tractor sounds. And I mean, I'm a grown-ass man, but I effing love tractor sounds. Like vroom vroom sounds. Yeah, like a 5-year-old. Oh, make the vroom vroom sound. Oh, such a nerd. Anyway, it is, without mods, it's a sandbox game. It's a kid's game. And I know, well, I don't know. I have to think that Giants wants to sell this game to more than kids. That they want to sell this game to adults as well. And I think seasons, or a seasons-like implementation in FS19 is really going to contribute to that. And I say that as a marketing guy. Like, if you want serious people to take your serious game seriously, you have to make it serious. And in hindsight, without seasons, it's a kid's game. So I hope they bring that in. What else was I thinking about? There was one other thing I was thinking about for FS19. I can't remember. Cannot remember. But it'll come to me. Not a big deal. I think what I might do when we go back over there, pick up our weight, and we probably won't drop this tedder because we have enough tractors and we're not going to be doing anything else with our MV track. We will most likely keep this tedder on it, or leave this tedder on it. And we will use, we can use the Steyr for our rake. So I'll rake this field. It's a pretty small rake. It's 9 meters, I think. That's fairly small. So we'll rake this field. We'll see how we're doing on time. And I may rent a baler. Because I didn't even... You ever do something dumb? Have you? I have. We have so many hay bales right now. We have hay bales out at the sheep meadow. We have hay bales, so many hay bales in the barn. I don't know why I made hay, because we really, like, it would have made a lot more sense to just take this grass either to the BGA, although we have a ton of silage bales as well. So I guess it would have made the most sense to take this grass to the composter. And all other grass fields, we'll do grass work next episode, and all other grass fields will go to the composter. And I need to remind myself then, we can probably just rent it. We'll need to rent the fuel bowser from the Coda Universal Pack, Farmer Andy's Coda Universal Pack. And I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that fuel bowser is the only... That's going to be the only way to get fuel into the BGA, the composter. If it's set up like it is on pretty much every other map, that'll be the only way to get that in there. So we'll rent that, take some fuel down, and then all other grass from first cut will go into the composter, or the compost master. Let's hop in cab. Yeah, this is a little smoother at eye level. I mean, we're only at 27, 28 FPS right now, but it's not stuttering at all, although we are having that tearing, which is kind of bugging me. Okay, so we're going to come right here. We're going to lower that. Take the load off the hydraulics. Normally I would leave that running because we just worked it, but we're inside, and I don't want to fill this barn with diesel, particularly when we have animal food right there. How's that for realism? We'll go back over here and grab our Steyr, and I believe, yeah, it said 60 horsepower for the rake. So, and this thing is like 75. That is an aggro truck. That's not what I want. There we go. Big trigger on the truck, apparently. Did that not used to be orange? This used to be orange, didn't it? I'll have to check. Oh, you know what? No, that doesn't make sense. I was thinking that might have something to do with the way we're rendering now. That's very strange. Did this not used to be orange? What the hell, man? Let's, moment, please. So we gotta go here, we gotta go here. There we go. And now we can put that on simple. Beautiful. I have seen, with my own 2 eyes, I have seen fake farmers that run a wheel. They run, it's concentrating. They run a wheel, they run twin joysticks, and a shifter. So when they're driving a tractor, like right through there, with Gearbox, they are also like running through the gears, even just going through the yard. I mean, I've got Gearbox set up to be mostly automatic, but it does... Can we clear it? Oh. When I pulled that thing in there, I did not look up top, but yeah. So, okay, we know we can't put that back in there. I have Gearbox set up to run mostly automatic. And I like the sound, like I was saying earlier. I like them vroom vroom sounds, but I also like the functionality that it adds, and it really kind of takes power away from the tractors. I think combination of Gearbox and more realistic definitely makes things harder in a good way. But the idea of like manually rowing gears in a tractor while you're trying to do all those other things, like I want to play realistically, but I gotta say, man, that is like, that's too real. Where do I want to go? I want to go here. Let's we're not gonna do how do we want to do this? Wait a minute. Yeah, this thing's got, are you seeing the rake sliding while we're standing still? Oh, mod life. Let's get up here. And I should have done this with the tedder as well, but let's do rows first, and then we'll do headlands. Okay, so hopefully we got enough power here. I can't see that we wouldn't. Set the cruise control for 6 as well. We're in the right gear. Here we go. Oh, that's a small, big rake. Looks big. It's kind of small. So we're not going to have time to bale today, and that's fine. It's 11 a.m., so we've got plenty of time to get this hay rode up, rent a baler. And like I said, we'll probably do that next episode. Episode? Yeah, I said that. We'll probably do that next episode. And we'll do that because we don't need to worry about getting off this map. We'll be here a few more episodes. I wanted to tie off some maps, but I don't think I need to tie them off quite yet. I think we've got a little bit of time before we need to do that. Oh, and I can also tell you that we did definitely lose Lone Oak Farm. I was not able to save that save game, not under any circumstances, even with all mods turned off. I don't know what happened to it, but it got corrupted somewhere. You just can't get away from the corruption. It's so corrupt. All right. Now we're making quick work of this field. It's a decent sized rig. It's not one of those monster like 4 fan jobs, but it'll do. It'll do. And I did think of going with I've got the little, it's a variation on the little Pottinger, that little single fan. Oh, you know what? I just realized when we parked the MB track with the tedder, I forgot to put the weight back on again. Oh, man. It's always something on the farm. Always something. But that's cool. So yeah, we lost Lone Oak for good, and I felt bad because we were just about to do a second harvest, get into hopefully profitability, and then close out that map, and then it just went away. But what can you do? And I think, yeah, man, I think that was everything that was on my list. I don't write anything down before I start a video. I just try to remember everything that I want to tell you, and kind of cuts both ways because I don't want to be like just babbling, but I also never want to feel like I'm reading from a script or something. You know, I always want it to be spontaneous and real. Making a big turn there. Oh, we are in drone cam right now. Straight down. There we go. It's a little better. Yeah, you can see the difference in the anti-aliasing. That's a little, you know, that's a little... Now, I've got FXAA running in Reshade and SweetFX. I always say Reshade and SweetFX. They're two different things. So I'll just say Reshade from here on out. I do have FXAA running in Reshade, but I mean, that is... Looking at that tractor right now, that's pretty FS17. So that's... I'll have to address that off camera. I'm just happy that I got... I'm happy that I got Shadowplay recording again because it's just so fantastic for frame rate. And also I got rid of that second FPS counter that was bugging the hell out of me. Like, it was bothering me completely disproportionate to, like, the actual problem. It was just, ugh. I don't know why it was bothering me so much, but it really was. So we got that sorted out. And what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do 2 headlands and make it just a monster windrow because we're not quite, like, I couldn't get quite close enough to the fence to have just a single width of headland. I couldn't get close enough to the fence to have a single width of headland, but if we hit it a second time, what it'll do is it'll fold this row that we're making right now. It'll combine it with the one from the outermost headland and just make one monster headland. That makes sense? I think that makes sense. It better make sense because that's what we're going to do. Too late now. So, yeah, we'll bail next episode, and then we'll stack, and we'll just do stuff. And we'll wait on FS19. Man, I was so... that episode from Maplewood that I just recorded a couple days ago, I was so hot in that episode. And, like, nothing was working. Shadowplay wasn't working. I was in action, which was killing my frame rate and kind of pissing me off. And then, for some reason, and I think I know the cause of it, I think the reason that tractor kept stalling is we were using the real RPM PTO mod. And I think that there was some aspect of that tractor, like the air pressure system or something, was pulling power off the PTO even though there was no implement attached. And that's what was pulling it down so low that it was stalling. But, like, with everything else that was going wrong, I finally get the game working well enough that we're ready to record. And then we get into record and that tractor kept stalling, and my buttons weren't configured. I was still missing a few controls on my flight stick. And, man, it's weird because, like, if you're having a bad day and you want a game, maybe that'll cheer you up. But if you're having a good day and you want a game and the gaming is bad, then that's making a bad day. So you just turn the game off. But with these videos, man, if a video is due, like, I gotta record it. And it doesn't matter whether I'm in a bad mood. Like, I have to record it. And then on top of that, like, no matter how hot I am, I have to try to be upbeat. Because I know there's some YouTubers that I've actually unsubscribed from them because they're just so sour. You know, they're obviously, like, really cranky, or I'll be in a live stream or something and somebody will just start, like, snapping at the viewers, or just being a total a-hole. You know, like, yelling at the mods, you know, get them out of here, get them out of here. It's like, man, we're supposed to be having fun. This is supposed to be like a community of gamers. What's wrong with you? So when I feel myself, I've never got like that. I hope I never have. But when I feel myself even getting close to getting like that, it's like I probably shouldn't be recording, but then at the same time, it's like I gotta record. So the only choice is to, like, not force myself to be in a good mood, but to really, like, get it together, you know? The show must go on. And I was talking to a friend of mine that just, well, I say he just had kids. He's got an 8-year-old son. So, I mean, for me, that's just had kids, because, like, I still can't believe he's got a kid. Not in a bad way. It's just never thought it would happen. Tractor looks pretty good right there. But I feel like our draw distance... Oh, God. Look at the tines on that rake. Yeah, I'll sort out the anti-aliasing. Let me tell you about my buddy. So my buddy has a kid, and I never thought he'd have kids. But he's doing a great job, I think. And we were talking about that, like, how you gotta get it together. And he's like, you know what, man, I feel the same way about my son. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of a day I'm having. I always need to be a role model to him as far as, like, how a man handles his mood and his emotions and his business. Doesn't matter how angry I am or how sad I am. I always have to be dad. And I think, I mean, obviously, raising kids and playing farm sim is two completely different things. But it's sort of the same idea, you know? And I guess it's a life lesson that maybe we have more control of ourselves than we think we do. It's easy to kind of, oh, you know, I just got so mad, or I was just in a bad mood, or whatever. But then you realize, like, no, you've got more control of yourself than you think you have when you want to. So I'll leave it on that note. Folks, thank you so much. Almost just coughed right there. Thank you so much for stopping back to check out The Portable Gamer. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Farming Simulator 2017 from Hermanns Eck. And we will see you next time. Take care now.